About 200 monks once became a human electrical circuit. They were shocked at the same time. Then electricity moved from monasteries to street dogs. In 1888, public demonstrations killed them for reporters. Then Auburn Prison in New York built a chair for it. The first man didn't die on the first shock. Tonight, after sunset, you'll close your curtains, flip a switch, and your room will fill with light. That switch is not simple. Humans didn't invent electricity. They found it everywhere. In storm clouds, in numb hands, in dead frogs, and inside your own nerves. The invention was the cage, then the wire, then the grid behind your walls. Long before labs, people rubbed amber with cloth and watched dust leap toward it. The Greek word for amber was electron. That's where your word electric begins. But amber couldn't cook dinner. It was a trick on a table. Electric fish were harder to ignore. Roman doctors used torpedo rays for pain. A living fish could numb a human hand. Your pain clinic started as a wet animal. And no, the famous Baghdad battery doesn't prove ancient power plants. Modern copies can make small voltage, but the evidence for real ancient batteries is thin. People saw sparks. They didn't have electricity. In 1600, William Gilbert gave the mystery a name. In London, he separated magnetism from the amber trick. He built a tiny pointer called a versorium, and charged objects made it turn. That sounds small, but naming a thing lets you chase it. Your wall switch begins with someone watching a needle move. Electricity is not one substance. It's charge, it's voltage, the pressure, it's current, the flow, it's resistance, the fight inside the wire. When you use power, you're buying a rate of work. Your phone charger is not swallowing magic. It's moving energy through fields and metal. Then came the jar. Around 1745, in Pomerania and Leiden, experimenters learned glass could store charge. The Leiden jar turned a spark into ammunition. You could carry it across a room, touch it, and dump the whole bite into a body. One early shock felt so violent that the man said he wouldn't repeat it for France. That was the first real storage step. Your power bank is a polite descendant. Then Abbé Jean-Antoine Nollet got ambitious. In Paris, he shocked royal guards for a crowd. Then he arranged about 200 Carthusian monks in a huge ring of bodies, joined by iron wires. He released the charge. They jumped together. The point was speed. The method was bodies. Your circuit tester is lucky it isn't human. Then lightning entered the room. Benjamin Franklin didn't discover electricity. By 1752, Europe already had jars, sparks, and shocks. Franklin's real move was bolder. He said lightning and lab electricity were the same thing. At Marly-la-Ville in France, a tall iron rod drew sparks from a thundercloud first. Franklin's kite in Philadelphia came later, and it wasn't hit by a full bolt. If it had been, he likely would have died. In St. Petersburg in 1753, one experimenter did die studying atmospheric electricity. The sky was not a symbol. It was a weapon overhead. Your lightning rod exists because someone made that weapon touch metal. But sparks still had a problem. They ended. A lamp needs a steady push. A motor needs a steady push. Your laptop needs hours of it. The path there ran through dead frogs. In Bologna, Luigi Galvani saw frog legs twitch. Sparks made them kick. Metal made them kick. Galvani thought living tissue made animal electricity. Alessandro Volta said the frog was just wet wiring. The real source was two different metals. In 1800, Volta stacked metal discs with wet separators between them. The pile made continuous current. The battery was born from an argument over corpse legs. Every battery in your drawer still follows that insult. 8 years later, electric light arrived too early. At the Royal Institution in London, Humphrey Davy used a huge battery to make an arc blaze between carbon rods. It was bright enough to hurt. It was also hot, loud, and useless for bedrooms. So Edison didn't invent electric light. He inherited a problem. Your bedside lamp needed control, not just fire. Then a compass moved. In Copenhagen in 1820, a current-carrying wire nudged a compass needle. Electricity could make magnetism. That was half the lock. In 1831, Michael Faraday turned the key. He moved magnets near coils and current appeared. Motion could become electricity. This is the secret inside almost every power plant. Coal burns to spin a turbine. Water falls to spin a turbine. Wind turns blades to spin a turbine. The generator uses Faraday's trick. Your outlet is usually fed by something spinning. Then electricity got stranger. In 1865, equations tied electricity, magnetism, and light together. Light was not separate. It was an electromagnetic wave. In 1887, lab sparks proved invisible invisible waves could travel. That opened the road to radio, then television, then radar, then the Wi-Fi touching your phone right now. Your screen is full of fields you can't feel. Now, the bulb story gets messy. Joseph Swan showed working incandescent lamps in Britain. Edison's Menlo Park team made a practical carbon lamp. One famous 1879 test burned about 14.5 hours, not 40. But Edison understood the real prize. Not a bulb, a system. Generators, wires, meters, switches, sockets, bills. On September 4, 1882, Pearl Street Station in Lower Manhattan served 82 customers and about 400 lamps. Modern night began as a luxury for a few blocks. Your switch is also a business model. But cities wanted distance. Edison's direct current hated distance. Low voltage meant heavy current. Heavy current meant heat lost in wires. Alternating current had a trick. Transformers could raise voltage for travel, then lower it near homes. Tesla's AC motor made that system more useful. Westinghouse bought in. Niagara Falls proved the scale. By 1896, power was moving from Niagara to Buffalo. Your house works because voltage changes before it reaches you. Then the sales war turned rotten. Harold Brown warned the public about AC. His campaign looked independent. Money and technical help tied it to Edison's circle. Dogs were placed in demonstrations. Reporters watched them die. The message was simple. AC kills. DC is safe. It was propaganda with a body count. New York then wanted a modern execution method. Hanging looked crude. Electricity looked scientific. At Auburn Prison on August 6, 1890, William Kemmler sat in the first electric chair. The first shock failed. A second shock finished it. Witnesses called it horrifying. The clean future smelled like burned flesh. Your light switch shares a family tree with that chair. Even the famous elephant story is darker than the myth. Topsy was killed at Coney Island in 1903. Edison's company filmed it, but it wasn't the main AC war stunt people repeat. It was amusement cruelty, wearing electrical clothes. The myth gives you one villain. The truth gives you a whole crowd. And the invention still wasn't finished. In 1932, only about 11% of U.S. farms had electricity. City windows glowed. Farm kitchens stayed dark. The Rural Electrification Administration changed that after 1935. Poles crossed fields. Wires reached barns. Freezers, radios, pumps, and lamps followed. Electricity became normal only when ordinary people got it. That is still not true everywhere. Hundreds of millions of people still live without reliable power. So the real question was never who invented electricity. It was who gets to live after sunset. We didn't create the force. We trapped sparks. We stacked metals. We spun magnets. We built grids. Then we used them to heal, sell, light, and kill. Tonight, when your room fills with light, remember what had to be dragged out of the dark. The miracle is not that the switch works. The miracle is that you expect it to.